I run a game online. We play on Discord. Me, the Dungeon Master, Black American. Oh, that's going to be relevant, isn't it? Who also play with VR friends who also happen to be black. We decide to look for extra players on the site's forums. So I create rules for the Discord and post them being no racist word, aka I'm sure all of Reddit knows what I'm talking about. I also make sure to state in my forum posts they will be playing with a black group to enforce that racist trolling. It is not tolerated. One guy is interested in joining. I asked if he read the rules and he says yes. I sent him the link and we meet up in a call for him to character build. An hour of said building later. Hey, so how are you guys on the rules? Oh, if you mess up, I'll give you a warning before kicking. But what if I accidentally say...
Insert gamer word here.
Well, then I'll accidentally kick you immediately. What if I say it in a different language, though? Because I totally say it all the time over here with my black friends, you know? You're not in the right group then, man. One slip up on something like that, and I think you're out. You know, usually I'd be mad, but he just saved me the trouble. The guy leaves the call. I'm happy for him, because I'd hate to know his experience would be terrible, because he can't disrespect me and half my Discord. Man, if a racist word is explicitly called out as zero tolerance, I don't know why you would join a Discord and expect there to be tolerance. Look, you're gonna get what you were promised. This story starts a long time ago. In a galaxy far, copyright. I'm just kidding. I just watched the Star Wars thing. It was pretty cool, actually. Anyway, long time ago when this person's exposure to tabletop role-playing games had barely started. Let's call him Pink, for the sake of anonymity. Pink was a very imaginative person, but he was also extremely impulsive. He first tried his hand at DMing with a Spiral Knights-inspired campaign in a homebrew system. The campaign was okay-ish, but Pink made a lot of mistakes. You know the ones. Boring and overpowered NPCs, boring and overpowered DMPCs, immortal DMPCs, ignoring player agency, railroading, pointless questlines, no note-keeping, pointless roles, just to name a few. I mean, we've seen worse. At one point, he didn't like how one of the players was fighting in the fight, so he decided to go, puppeteer his character and fudge rolls to make him win the way he wanted. You fool. I cannot be beaten. Arvok, you will pay for what you did to my Whoop! Whoop! What's happening? What are you doing? How are you doing this? Dude, it's not me, man. I promise. Hey, DM, can you die. Eventually, that campaign ended, and he tried his hand at it again with another campaign that was kind of better, credit where credit was due. He improved a lot with the NPCs, and he actually didn't have that many DMPCs this time around. He actually respected player agency, most of the time, at least. He kept, however, making the same mistakes, and when he was criticized for it, he would either ignore the comment or get mad. On one occasion, him and one of the other players got into an argument. Neither of them were right, mind you, but instead of trying to hear each other out, they both just kept screaming. Eventually, the player slapped Pink in the face. Nope, not kidding.
How many bastards does he have running?
Pink proceeded to kick him out of the house, and even though the player refused to go initially, he was successful. They didn't speak for almost 2 months after that, and they finally left the subject behind and then just moved on. You know, with all of my fictional characters, I really like understanding where flawed or broken characters are coming from. You know, who doesn't like a good forgiveness arc? But, you know, in real life, you slap me in the face over a D&D game, I'm probably gonna take it very personally, just saying. After the second campaign ended, Pink took a break, but eventually returned to the Dungeon Master chair with the third campaign. I won't speak of the horrors that unfolded there. Honestly, I just don't wish to remember them, but let's just say Pink hadn't learned anything, and in fact, it got worse. A part of me trembles in fear remembering the moment he discovered Dungeons & Dragons because that was the point of no return for the guy. After a few test games, he made the decision to DM his own campaign, and although the group was partially against it due to his history in the DM chair, he eventually got his way. The first D&D campaign was called Whintree. Now, I will say that unlike the other times, he actually improved a lot here. His NPCs were a whole lot more interesting and less overpowered. The story was decent, and he was learning how to improve and make decent combats. Now, you might be thinking, oh, that's good. He's getting better at this. Surely, he's not going to mess this one up. How optimistic. I commend you. But there's a few things unaccounted for. He continued to railroad the players and ignored their agency, fudge dice rolls more in his favor than before, and even worse than those two, he started resetting the campaign every time it got to a point he didn't like, or every time he couldn't be bothered to fix his own mistakes. Oh my god, it's Baldur's Gate 3! He's reloading the save. Dang it. Ah, well, I guess we can't open this What's going on? What's that light? Well, I guess it's just that time. You know what this is? Yeah. Save's being reset. We're being erased. Erased? I guess this is it for us then. But I have a family. You don't have a family. You're just a video game character. I think the best thing you could do is just be at peace with the decisions you made. No, please, don't let him do this! Please. He reset the campaign 4 different times. After the 4th world reset, he started a new campaign in the same setting, dragging the group into it again, but by this time, everyone was done with his bull crab. Give me a sec.
Much later.
Totally worth it. Eventually, after a big fight, the group dissolved. A few of the remaining members banded together and created a new Discord server. Pink played in a few games, but he eventually tried his hand at DMing again with more players this time. But it didn't go anywhere. It lasted only a couple sessions and then fizzled out due to scheduling and lack of motivation. He tried again a year later with the same result, and even once again after that, but it was not working. At that point, he had a breakdown and just quit DMing for 2 years. After a while, he got the itch again, but this time, to his credit, he prepared properly. He created a kingdom called... Dude, the last one was easy. Southfendir? Fuck! Had a lot of cities, towns, villages. He watched tutorials and guides to improve. When he thought himself ready, he posted an advert on another D&D Discord server. He got 4 players hooked and scheduled for the first session. To say he was nervous would be the understatement the size of an ancient aboleth. I mean, aboleths are not actually that big. I was kind of disappointed when I saw they're just large creatures. Like, they're not even as big as a blue whale. They're kind of small, actually. Really, you're just making a moderately sized understatement. When the time came, though, he succeeded. He made a few mistakes, but he succeeded. Now, mind you, session 1 was almost a complete disaster, but it worked. Problem is, one of the players, called Captain, ditched the group without any warning 2 hours before session 2. Additionally, Roll20, the VTT they were using for some reason, I'm not fucking hate Roll20, was being a bit of a donkey and wasn't working properly. Pink panicked and didn't know what to do. He began trying to fix the Roll20 issue. Meanwhile, he asked one of the other players to bring others into the server, which he did. But by then, there was only 1 hour left. He quickly talked to the other players, horseshoeing their characters onto the campaign, and the end result? It worked! Yeah, despite all that, it eventually worked. The campaign's been going for almost 3 years now and is approaching its final arc. Now, you would think the story ends here, but it doesn't. While DMing his first successful campaign, Pink thought, I want to run another campaign in another part of the world. So yeah, he tried running a second campaign with different players, and it didn't go so well. But Pink wasn't deterred. He tried again, this time finding success. The second campaign has been going for almost 2 years now, and both groups enjoy them. I could tell you more about them, but the story is already long enough as is. Before I end this though, you might have noticed that I didn't really mention where I fit into all this. There's a simple answer there. My name is Pink, and it has been a pleasure sharing this story with you. Look, we were all a bad DM at some point in our D&D careers, mostly at the start. Now, I will be honest, you had a lot of bad DMing habits that lasted for a long time, but in the end, sometimes the best thing you could do is just take a step back. You know, even a 2-week break can just really help you to get things in perspective. You took a 2-year break, and in those 2 years, you hopefully improved your DMing, and seemingly you have succeeded. If you got 2 successful campaigns going, that is great. Multi-year campaigns are so much fun. They're a true thing to experience, especially if you're doing it with friends. I think it was the right call playing with other people when it comes to your return to D&D. Sure, playing with people you're familiar with, that's great, but unfortunately, sometimes bridges are just burned, especially when it comes to a game that they're supposed to be playing for fun. Trying it out with new people, fresh faces, that is the right thing to do. I think it turned out really well here, and I'm glad that you've improved your DMing and just become better at the gig. Some details have been changed since I'm no longer friends with this dungeon master. I don't want him stalking my Reddit. This is a pretty light one as far as horror stories go, but I figured it might serve as a cautionary tale. This dungeon master has been super excited for a while to run a seafaring, exploration-based sandbox campaign and rounded up myself and a few others to play it. This dungeon master had previously run the best campaign I had ever played in and was super excited about the setting he was playing for this one. So even though the system wasn't the sort of thing I normally play, I was hyped for this. The game started with our ship wrecking upon an island and hosted an independent city-state. We were taken to the head magistrates of the city-state and were told that we could stay, but that we would have to spend all of our starting cash on work documents to be allowed to live and work here. Weird way to start an adventure, but we were willing to give the DM the benefit of the doubt. And then the dungeon master pulls out the calculator.
Oh, players of mine. More like fools of mine. You think you've beaten me? I have a secret weapon that will destroy you and your entire party. Oh, please, Dungeon Master. What are you gonna do? Read us to, Leviathan axe forged by the Huldra brothers. The cannon of Dredgen Yor. Those are mere trinkets. No. Not the calculator! It's
and starts telling us how much rent for an apartment for our characters is gonna cost, how much we need to spend on food each day, etc. And then lists a bunch of menial, low-paying jobs our characters can do to make money, though with the promise that we might get promotions later and get paid slightly more. How exciting. Again, it's a weird start for what's pitched as a seafaring sandbox campaign, but maybe he's going somewhere with this? Yes, epic seafaring campaign. Expectation? Reality. He's not going anywhere fun with this. The majority of the first session was spent describing our characters' lives in the city day by day in grueling detail, making us roll for how well we did lest we get fired, how much we spent on living expenses, and what little we could save at the end of the day. You know all those real-world scam MMOs that say they can simulate life almost precisely? This is the kind of guy that donates to those. Why would you want to simulate life precisely? Look, in the fantasy game, I don't want to be some menial dude just trying to get by. I want to be the badass! Okay, maybe not this specific badass, considering his fate, but you know. But towards the end of the session, we finally got something approaching a plot hook when one of the characters rolled particularly well at his job and overheard some coworkers talking about a tiny island some distance away where there was supposedly treasure to be found. Bingo! But remember, dear reader, their ship had been destroyed at the start of the first session, and there was no way our characters could afford a new one on our meager salaries. We eventually figured out through some skill checks that we could hire a ship and crew to take us to this island, and again, the Dungeon Master laid out in excruciating detail how much all this would cost and entail in crew and supplies. Should have taken them aside right then, but we were just so excited to have something resembling a plot hook. Next session begins. Does he skip ahead to when we've saved up enough to charter a ship and head to the island? Nope. More dull descriptions of uneventful days. Towards the middle of session 2, the other players and I start to grumble. It would take weeks in game to save up for this, and at the rate we are going, that meant multiple sessions of nothing but the roleplay equivalent of TV static. The DM assured us he had a plan. DM, this makes no sense. We're not going anywhere with this. We have no money left. Do you have any idea what you're doing with this campaign?
Loyalty, Arthur. It ain't. I have a goddamn...
The DM was just asking us to hold out a little longer, but he must not have had a lot of confidence in that plan because no session 3 was ever scheduled. Look, I'm sure there are some aspects of realism that could work really well into tabletop role-playing games, but I mean, come on. Stuff like this is just slog that no one wants to go through, including me, by the way, as a dungeon master. I hate planning out the prices of items in stores. I have a spreadsheet that's pre-made for it just because I can't be bothered to do it. It's so annoying. Why a dungeon master would want to have a calculator and a small macroeconomics lesson for the players every time they want to do something is beyond me, but it's not something I want to be a part of. It's clearly not something these people want to be a part of, and frankly, waiting for that one breadcrumb of plot hook, it ain't worth this. This was the most bizarre experience I've ever had. It was meant to be a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition one-shot with homebrew elements run by someone in person that I didn't know too well. I was invited by a friend who was another player, and they told me that the Dungeon Master has been really good in the past. I took their word for it and agreed to join the one-shot. The party consisted of me as the bard, my friends the cleric, barbarian, and sorcerer, and of course, Dungeon Master. The one-shot seemed pretty standard with no red flags. The party met in a tavern as a group of strangers who all took the same job from Adventurers Wanted poster. I met my friends at some random tavern.
And you think that makes you unique? Get out of here, man.
It's not a bad thing. Who doesn't like a good old tavern start? We met the NPC who assigned us the job, and so we were sent on our way. Our party had to travel up this dangerous, spooky mountain to what appeared to be an abandoned manor on the top. The Dungeon Master explained that many rumors describing this place said that it was super haunted and filled with monsters. It was around Halloween real life, so the spooky theme seemed fun. Halfway up the mountain, the Dungeon Master describes an encounter with a werewolf. This werewolf was extremely overpowered to the point where a group of level 5 adventurers would never stand a chance against it. It was rolling attacks that did upwards of 25 damage per turn. I think the least amount of damage it did was 15. Okay, maybe I'm just a psychopath, but I don't think that's that bad. I mean, this storm wizard that I use against my party can deal 25 damage per turn in a line against multiple creatures, and my party did great. So maybe you meant 25 damage per attack, because that would be a problem. Anyway, my character did not live through the encounter, and neither did sorcerers. Cleric and barbarian were able to flee the encounter after barbarian rendered the werewolf prone for 2 turns. The Dungeon Master asked us to hand over our character sheets, then gave us pre-made characters. I was playing an extremely powerful vampire that had abilities and powers I had never heard of. I assumed these things to be the Dungeon Master's homebrew. An example of one attack I had was Touch of the Undead, which functions similarly to Burning Hands, but with necrotic damage, and I rolled 5d12 for damage. Imagine if you start out with this humble, cottagecore bard character, simple backstory for a one-shot, then suddenly you're reincarnated as a vampire god with... Astarion. This is not what I had in mind when I said vampire god. Put some clothes on! It was crazy overpowered, and I was confused as to why it was like this. The Dungeon Master explained to me and Sorcerer that our new characters were not yet in contact with the party. Our characters were awaiting the party's arrival in the manor up ahead. I asked if we were meant to team up with the party, and the DM got noticeably irritated with this question as if it was obvious what we were supposed to do. The Dungeon Master told me and Sorcerer that I would stop at nothing to see the party eradicated. The Sorcerer mentioned that our character seemed too strong for Cleric and Barbarian alone, and the Dungeon Master told me that there was a reason for that. We carried on. Cleric and Barbarian finally managed to make it to the manor after barely avoiding and escaping the 3 other overpowered monster encounters. Alright, here's the difference between me and this DM. I like having individual, extremely strong encounters. I minimize the amount, maximize the lethality, rather than having a bunch of lethal encounters, because that's just going to be a slug that no one enjoys. Me included, by the way. Anyway, both the Cleric and Barbarian had extremely low health, and Cleric was almost out of spell slots. They tried to find an alternate entrance to the manor, you know, because the front doors are an obvious trap, but the Dungeon Master railroaded them into using the front doors. As they entered the manor, they encountered Sorcerer and myself. We all rolled for initiative, and the battle was over in 1 round. The DM handed Cleric and Barbarian new character sheets that were also overpowered monsters. Quick cue. Why didn't we just start with those? Suddenly, a paladin in shining golden armor bursts through the front doors. I have come to stop your reign of terror, monsters. You will pay for the innocent lives you've taken, he yells as he points his sword at you threateningly. You all recognize him as the legendary elven paladin, Elwyn Clary, vanquisher of evil and slayer of monsters. The DM said this to us with all seriousness. We exchanged looks with each other. I don't think any of us knew how to react. The Dungeon Master gave us a look that was a mix of irritation and confusion. Aren't you going to attack him? The Barbarian rolled to attack, landing, hey, a nat 20 plus 7. It misses, the DM says with a big smile. This is going to be one of those days, isn't it? Seriously, what's the likelihood that even happens? We proceed to get our crap absolutely rocked by the DMPC. The Paladin was hitting us for unreal amounts of damage and barely taking a single hit from us. I think we were able to hit him twice in total. I'm not sure what the Paladin's AC was, but it was insanely high. My monster character had a total of 300-ish health, and I was down in 2 turns. The levels of damage he was dealing made 0 sense. After the Paladin killed the entire party, the DM thanked us for coming to their game and asked us how we felt about it. Theon Greyjoy, I have tormented you for months now, broken your body, mind, and spirit. I even broke your dick. And now, I want to get your thoughts. You know, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how are we feeling? You know, it's very important to me that I just need to know what your thoughts on it are, because, you know, I've been really uncertain about, you know, my performance, and it's really important to me that I understand. Look, on our thoughts, Barbarian was dead honest and told DM that this is ridiculous. It was hardly a game at all. DM and Barbarian got into a small argument about it, and all the players, myself included, left shortly after. I never attended a game run by this DM again. My friend the cleric who invited me apologized for the way the game went and explained that Dungeon Master has never done anything like that before. They told me the DM had always run interesting, entertaining one-shots and short campaigns and never once inserted overpowered DMPCs like this. Cleric did say that DM had NPC characters that were clearly based on DM's past campaign characters, but they had supposedly never been a problem and served as more of a shout-out to past campaigns the DM took part in. So clearly the DM had a villain origin story. I do have a theory.
At long last, my masterpiece has been completed. It is time to see the beautiful finished copy of my book. How is this possible? My story was perfect. How am I going to spread the narrative of my perfect characters now? Wait a minute. Yeah, this'll work.
Cleric participated in other one-shots run by DM after this and told me they left early because DM kept inserting overpowered enemies and Cleric did not want to stick around for the eventual DMPC boss fight. Dude, I'm gonna be honest, I do not have an explanation at all for why the Dungeon Master is acting like this. I mean, I talked earlier about how I like running challenging campaigns, not meat grinders. Mind you, I've only killed 1 character in my entire DMing career, but campaigns that make my players sweat, that force them to be tactical. I love that kind of thing. This is everything I despise and hate. The challenge here isn't from tactics or status conditions the players need to manage, it's just sheer damage and way too much health. That is not challenging, it's just a more annoying form of math problems. Of course, DMPCs like this are terrible. I have been a long-time advocate that NPCs taking a role in the campaign or having personality is not a bad thing in any way. However, this is an NPC that is stealing away the game from the party. In this case, very literally. Whether it was a failed attempt at authorship or some other catastrophe, I don't know what spawned the DM's villain arc, but it doesn't matter. This is just straight up not a good move at all. That's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Q&Play series, where we answer your questions in a rambly, unscripted format while playing some video games. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment, The Paladin, to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.